Let me say something clearly. Future faking is not romance. It is prepayment fraud. And a lot of women need to hear that until it fully lands in their spirit. Because what future faking does is this: it uses the promise of later commitment to extract present sacrifice. It says, stay with me now, and one day I'll choose you properly. Give to me now, and later I'll make it official. Carry this now, and in the future you'll see it was worth it. Endure this season, and one day I'll become the man you need. And because the future sounds beautiful, many women start paying in advance with their time, with their loyalty, their labor, their body, their emotional strength, with their money, their silence, their patience, with years of their life. That is why I call it prepayment fraud, because you are being asked to keep making deposits into a future that has not materialized, while the other person is already enjoying the benefits in the present. And that is not love. That is leverage. That is someone using tomorrow to access what you should never have had to hand over today. Now, let me slow this down. Real love does not need endless future language to justify present imbalance. Real love does not keep saying later, later, later while feeding off your consistency now. Real love does not need to dangle commitment in front of you like a carrot while collecting the emotional, domestic, sexual, or financial benefits of your devotion in real time. That is not romance. That is deferred honesty. That is someone keeping you emotionally invested with promises that function like currency. Because future faking is not just lying. It is strategic postponement. It is saying just enough about the future to keep you from responding honestly to the present. And that is what makes it so dangerous. It keeps your eyes fixed on where things are going, so you do not fully evaluate where things actually are. You stop asking, what is this relationship costing me right now? You stop asking, what is being built in the present? You stop asking, is there evidence or only language? You stop asking, why do I keep having to pay before anything is secure? And instead, you become emotionally attached to an imagined destination. Marriage later, security later, change later, healing later, consistency later, clarity later, choosing you later. Always later. And then later becomes the machine that keeps the whole dynamic alive. Because while you are waiting for later, he is benefiting now. He gets your softness now. He gets your labor now. He gets your body now. He gets your loyalty, your understanding. He gets your emotional support now. He gets to be under construction forever while receiving girlfriend, wife, partner, therapist, cheerleader, and support system privileges now. That is why this matters. Because some women are not stuck because they are foolish. They are stuck because hope has been weaponized against their discernment. They are not staying because they see clear evidence. They are staying because they were handed a compelling future and taught to call patience a virtue. But discernment asks a different question. Not what did he say he wants one day. Discernment asks, what is the pattern making true right now? Because promises are cheap when they are funding someone else's comfort. Words are easy when they cost the speaker nothing. The real question is, what is the present revealing? Not the fantasy, not the potential, not the future story he keeps narrating, the present. Is he building or is he buying time? Is he moving or is he managing your hope? Is he becoming accountable or is he keeping you emotionally prepaid? Because that is what future faking does. It keeps you prepaid. Prepared with loyalty, prepared with access, prepared with belief, prepared with sacrifice. You have already paid, but the thing you were promised keeps moving further away. And let me tell you something painful. One of the reasons future faking works so well is because good women are often trained to honor potential. They are trained to see who a man could be, to be patient with process, to believe in unfinished men, to interpret delay as depth, to call waiting wisdom, to call overextending love. But there is a difference between supporting growth and financing avoidance. There is a difference between patience and being strung along. There is a difference between believing in someone and being used as an emotional investor in a future they have no real intention of delivering. And this is where a lot of women lose years. Not because they were not intelligent, but because they kept mistaking verbal future for actual movement. So please hear me carefully. A man talking about the future is not the same as a man building one with you. A man saying one day is not the same as a man making decisions in the present. A man who keeps promising commitment later while extracting sacrifice now is not preparing. He is consuming. And that is why women need to think clearly under pressure, because pressure distorts judgment. Pressure makes you want resolution. Pressure makes you cling to hope. Pressure makes you afraid to waste what you have already invested. Pressure makes you keep paying because you want the investment to mean something. And that is exactly how prepayment fraud works. The more you have already paid, the harder it feels to walk away. But sunk cost is not discernment. Just because you have invested deeply does not mean the thing is sound. Just because you waited a long time does not mean the promise is real. Just because you sacrificed much does not mean the future is coming. Sometimes it just means you have been overpaying for an illusion. And I know that is hard to hear because nobody wants to admit that they were loyal to something that was feeding on their hope. But truth is mercy. Truth is how you stop the bleeding. Truth is how you stop converting your life into installments for a promise that never matures. So, if you are listening to me, ask yourself this honestly. What am I being asked to give now in exchange for what I am merely being told will happen later? What present sacrifices are being normalized because of a future that remains unproven? Or what has he already received from me without the corresponding clarity, security, accountability, or commitment? Because your future should not have to be financed by your present depletion. And your loyalty should not have to function as collateral for someone else's indecision. You do not need to become harder. You need to become clearer. You need to separate hope from evidence, potential from pattern, promise from proof. And maybe that is the shift. Maybe the shift is no longer asking, what if he means it? Maybe the shift is asking, what is this costing me while I wait for him to prove it? Because a promise that only works if you keep sacrificing is not a promise. It is a mechanism for keeping you emotionally available while he remains structurally uncommitted. And that is not love. That is prepayment fraud. This is Redefine Your Narrative. And maybe the narrative you need to redefine is this. I will no longer pay present costs for future promises that have not earned my trust. God bless you.